السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله خاتم النبيين ورحمة الله للعالمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, inshallah today we're going to talk about the topic of ar-rizq. Ar-rizq is translated in English into sustenance, provision. And when you ask anybody about rizq, the first thing they're going to answer is say money. That's rizq. And it is true. Money is rizq. But it's a very narrow definition of what is rizq. Rizq is much wider than that. Rizq is everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you that is beneficial to you. So rizq can be your health. Rizq can be your strength. Rizq can be your look. Rizq can be the way you talk. Rizq can be your good character. People love you and approach you. Rizq can be a good spouse. Rizq can be good children. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you that's beneficial is rizq. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of His beautiful names is Ar-Razzaq. Ar-Razzaq means Allah is the only owner of the provisions. He's the only owner. And He's the only one who can provide it. Nobody else. Sometimes we get confused. We think our boss is holding our rizq. That, oh, if he fires me, my rizq is gone. And if he doesn't give me that promotion, my rizq is not here. Nobody controls your rizq except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He provides two kinds of rizq. One rizq is called the general rizq. And it's called as well material rizq, or temporary rizq, or lower rizq. And that rizq is everything that we said. That rizq is money, is health, is a job, is a spouse, is children, all of that. That's the lower rizq. And this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give it to every creation. Every creation. The kafir, the Muslim, the animals, the birds, the insects, all of those Allah provide them with rizq. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. There is no moving creature on earth, but its sustenance depends on Allah. Every creature, whether we see it or we don't, like viruses, we don't see them. The rizq is depending on Allah. Everything, creature that are in the deep ocean, that nobody have ever seen, the rizq, it depends on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just imagine how many creation Allah created, all of them depends on Allah in rizq. And what's more amazing, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide each creation the rizq all at the same time. I cannot talk to two people at the same time. I will lose concentration. Imagine billions and billions of creation, if trillions, Allah provide them their rizq at the same time, all of them, without getting confused. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ مَنْ آمَنَ مِنْهُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ قَالَ وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَأُمَتِّعُهُ قَلِيلًا ثُمَّ أَضْطَرُّهُ إِلَى عَذَابِ النَّارِ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. And remember when Ibrahim alayhi salam said, my Lord, make this city, Mecca, a place of security and provide its people with fruits, such of them as believe in Allah in the last day. So Sayyidina Ibrahim, he's a prophet. So he asking Allah, Allah, give provision. But because he's a prophet, only to the people who believe in you, not the other. Only Allah, please give provision to those people who believe in you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering, He said, and whoever disbelieves, even the kafir, I will grant him enjoyment for a short while, their life, for a short period. He's going to give them rizq. Whether it's you're talking about 50 years, 70, 100, 120, 200, doesn't matter. Then I shall force them into the hellfire. And it is an evil destination. It's a terrible end. So Allah is saying, everybody, it doesn't matter. You believe in Allah, you don't believe in Allah, you're going to get rizq. Because He created him. That kafir, the person who's kafir, Allah created that person. So it's not fair. You, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brought me to this earth. And then you tell me, because you don't believe in me, I'm not going to give you any rizq. It's not fair. But Allah is fair. I brought you to this world, I'm going to give you a rizq. And then you believe in me or you don't believe in me, I'm going to judge you on the day of judgment. And the Prophet ﷺ said, by Him in whose hand is my soul, he's swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If this world equaled to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a mosquito's wing, He would not give anything from it to the unbelievers and the hypocrites. So that explained to us why Allah is giving to the kafir. Because this dunya, that life, is worthless to Allah. He didn't even say it's worth 2 wings of a mosquito, 1 wing of a mosquito. The whole world that people are killing each other, countries are invading other countries because of that risk. It's worth nothing for Allah. So that's why He's giving everybody. It doesn't matter, you're a kafir, you're a believer, it doesn't matter. Because it's worth nothing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the other type of rizq, we said about the general rizq. The second type of rizq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants is a special rizq. It's the permanent rizq. It's the higher rizq. And this Allah provides to special people. The people who want to get close to Allah. The people who believe in Allah. And that rizq is faith. He increased them in faith. All you have to do is take the first step. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from you. You take the first step, believe in Allah. Try to get close to Him. He's going to get closer to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you take 1 step, He's going to take 10 steps. Instead of the opposite. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you just take the effort, He's going to come close to you. And not only that, He's going to provide you, but He's going to give you something that the non-believer don't have, which is happiness with what He gives you. He's going to make you content. This is extremely difficult. It sounds simple, but I've seen people with tremendous amount of money, and they are not happy. They feel they don't have enough. Allah take the content out of their heart. And I've seen people who have very little, but they are very happy. Happiness is something money will not buy you. Whether you have billions, or you have millions, or whatever, you are not going to be able to buy contentment, happiness with what Allah gave you. This comes from Allah. So when you get close to Allah, Allah will give you contentment, make you happy. And then the other thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you when you get close to Allah is blessing. Blessing, what does blessing mean? We use that word in general. Blessing means that something will give you more than normally is expected. Like for sake of discussion, we have food enough for 5 people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you have some poor joining you in eating that food, bless the food. Then all of a sudden the food for 5 people, enough for 10 people, and everybody leaves full stomach, happy and all of that. That's blessing. Allah will give you a small salary, but Allah bless that salary. And the opposite, Allah can give you a huge salary, but take the blessing out. And you find that that huge salary is not enough. I don't have enough money. You're always complaining, I need more. It's the blessing. It's the special gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the believer who get close to Allah. And then In order to understand risk, a lot of time we get confused about what we earn and our risk. Like when you ask somebody, you say, what is your risk? You say, oh, my paycheck, I make $80,000 a year. I make $100,000. I make $200,000. That's my risk. No, that's not your risk. Your risk, this money that you're getting, is not all of it is your risk. A part of it is risk of many people. A part of it is risk of your spouse, risk of your children, risk of the mechanic that's going to fix your car, risk of the doctor that you're going to see your children, risk of the person that you're renting from, or the person you're paying, anything. All of those people, that money is the risk. All you are is a person that's carrying that money and giving it to them. Allah gives you that big salary, but a big part of it goes here, and another goes here, and another goes there, and it goes to so many people. That's the risk. But you are the person that's carrying that risk to give it to them. That's the way it is. The Prophet ﷺ said, son of Adam says, that's what son of Adam says, my wealth, my wealth. Do you own of your wealth other than that you eat and consume, and what you wear and wear out, or what you give in sadaqah, in charity, and that what you will have in stock for yourself? So he's saying that all of us, when we look at our money, we say, this is my money, my money. But he's saying, really, the only risk you have is what you eat and it's gone. That's the only thing. Or clothes you wear and you wear them out, so they're not usable after that. Or charity you give, and that's the only thing that's going to be waiting for you. But the other two are gone. Other than that, it's not your risk. Everything else is not your risk. Anything other than that, we are just guardian, protecting it until we're going to give it to the next person that's going to go to. Whoever it's going to be, whether you have a beautiful car and then you sell it, or you die and somebody else will take it, or a home and you die and your people who inherit you take that house, either they live in it or sell it, and they split the money. So it's not your risk. It's going to go to somebody else. Even the person who's very tight with money, the miser, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him. He has a role to play. His role to play in this life is to collect the money and not enjoy it, not have any benefit from it, and keep it until he passes it on to other people. That's his role. But he gathered all that money, and he did not spend a penny on himself to pass it on to somebody else, to the people who are going to inherit him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. O mankind, eat of that which is lawful and good on the earth, and do not follow the footsteps of the shaitan. Surely he is your open enemy. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, the material risk in this life, the only way to obtain it, there is two ways to obtain it. One, through halal, lawful ways, and the other is through haram, unlawful ways. But don't follow the haram, because that's the footstep of the shaitan. You're following the shaitan. When you do that, when you do things in haram, you're following the shaitan. And shaitan is very smart. Shaitan approach you and he convinced you to do haram through fear. Fear is the best weapon that the shaitan has. Shaitan always will come to you and say, hey, you don't have enough money. What happens if you die, and what happens to your children? Why don't you steal? Why don't you cheat? Or he will come to you and say, why can't you be rich like so-and-so? Why he's richer than you? Come on, just cheat one time, just steal one time, and then after that become a great Muslim. But just do it one time until you collect that money, and then you become a good Muslim. And it's never like that. You start to do haram one time, then it becomes easy. Then you do it the second time, and the third time, until it becomes a part of your character, that you feel that haram is easy. You have no fear from haram. And there is, you know, there is a famous diplomat, Italian diplomat. His name is Machiavelli. Machiavelli came up with a philosophy that many countries and a lot of individuals adopt. That philosophy says the end justifies the means. So what does it mean? It means like, what is your goal? As long as you achieve your goal, the way to achieve it doesn't matter. And a lot of countries do that. A lot of individuals do that. So it doesn't matter, you know, whether I get that person in trouble, whether I steal, whether I cheat, whether I do whatever it takes, as long as I achieve my goal, then you're a smart person. And that's the way that a lot of countries and a lot of people do. But Islam is different. Islam says what's important is how you achieve things. It's not important that you reach the goal, because the goal, reaching the goal, is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not in your hands. But how you achieve it, it's what's in your hands. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to hold you accountable to. Did you get that money by working hard and doing everything you can in a halal way? Or did you get it by cheating and by lying and by stealing? That's what Allah's going to ask you. But whether the money is going to come or not, you have no control on it. It's not in your hands. And some people think that when Allah gives somebody a lot of risk, then Allah loves you. A lot of people think that there is a direct relationship between how much risk you have and the love of Allah. So if you're poor, then Allah hates you. And if you're rich and you have, you know, those fancy cars and you live in a 50-room house and, you know, you have a big account in the bank and your credit card has no limit, Allah loves you. And the other guy, the poor guy that, you know, has his shoes, he has holes in them and all of that, Allah hates him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا كَلَّا. And as for man, when his Lord tries him, then treats him with honor and makes him lead an easy life, he says, my Lord honors me. When Allah gives him a lot, he says, God loves me. But when he tries him, restricting his subsistence for him, he says, my Lord has humiliated him. No. Allah is saying both of them is a test. It's not a sign of Allah's love or a sign of Allah's hate. Allah is testing you. He's testing some people by giving them money and see how you're going to use it. And He's testing some people by not giving them money and see how they're going to react. Are they going to be angry with Allah? Or they are going to say, Allah is going to help you. It's coming. Have patience. So that's what Allah is saying. It has nothing to do with His love or His hate. It's just a test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His wisdom, He distributed all the risk on all human beings. All of them. So we are all depending on each other. Everybody. Nobody can live on his own. Every one of us is depending on each other. Even you take somebody like Bill Gates, the richest man in America. He's depending on other people. If he has a problem in his plumbing, he has to go and ask for somebody to help him. And that's he's going to give risk to somebody else. If he's sick, he has to go to a doctor. And then he's going to give risk to the doctor. Electricity, he has to pay electricity. Even his Microsoft company, they depend on other people. If people don't buy their Windows, they're in trouble. Their risk depends on the people who go and buy Windows and buy Microsoft Office and all of that. So every one of us depend on the other people for their risk. Every one of us. And think about it. Some people say, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us and created all of us rich? It should have been beautiful. All of us, we have each one of us a huge bank account and all of that. All of us are rich. But if you think about it, If that's the case, when there is a problem in the sewage, who's going to fix it? You're rich, I'm rich, I'm not going to fix it. You don't want to fix it. But Allah made people different level. So somebody less fortunate, he's going to be happy to come out and fix the sewer because he knows there is risk for him in it. Another person, he's going to be happy to clean the street because he knows there is risk for him. So Allah created us different level. Otherwise, humanity will have disappeared. Because none of us are going to say, me, I'm going to clean the street. I'm rich like him. Why doesn't he clean the street? But Allah made it in a way that every one of us is happy with the risk. So in a way that we can all, as humanity, survive. And some people think that somebody can take away your risk. Nobody can take your risk away. Nobody. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. And in the heaven is your provision and that which you are promised. So Allah promised your risk. So nobody can take it. Nobody. And Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينَ. For Allah is He who gives all sustenance, owner of power, the most strong. So Allah, nobody can force Him not to give you the risk, and nobody can take away from Him your risk. Nobody can. He's the strong. He's the mighty. Nobody can. So your risk is protected by Allah. So don't be worried about that somebody can take your risk. They hire somebody and you're worried he's going to take your job or whatever. This is very common. We hear it in Silicon Valley. Oh, he may take my job. They hired him. Oh, he's better than me. He's smarter than me. Nobody can take your risk. And I'll tell you, I used to believe that if there is one job and two people are, there's two people, one of them is going to be promoted, that one person is going to take the risk of the other. I used to believe that when I was young. Until one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught me a lesson. One day I was sitting in front of the ocean, in a rocky place. And there was in front of me a guy standing on a rock fishing. And like 500 yards away, there was another guy on another rock fishing. And then the guy in front of me, every time he throw his line, he catch a fish. The other guy, nothing. For an hour, this guy in front of me, like somebody sitting under the water, just hooking a fish to him every time he throw it. Amazing. I was amazed looking at that. After a while, the guy that was 500 yards away moved 100 yards. Still nothing happened. This guy catching fish continuously. And I'm watching, amazed. How is this happening? And then another 100 yards. And then another 100 yards. And then he stood next to him on the same rock. This guy is catching fish. This guy is not catching fish. Risk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's controlling it. You can't take somebody's risk. Don't worry. Nobody's going to take your risk. If they hire the smartest person, he's not going to take your risk. Nobody. That thing, that day, I knew nobody can take my risk away from me. Nobody. He stood foot next to his foot. And this one is catching fish, this one, nothing. Subhanallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to go and look for risk. Some people think Allah is the provider of risk. So why don't I stay home, relax, watch TV, and the risk is going to come to me. Somebody's going to come and ring the bell and say, okay, here is your risk. That's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from us. Allah says, فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. Then disperse in the land and seek the bounty of Allah. Allah wants us to go and look for our risk. That's what Allah expects from us. He put us on earth to go and look for our risk. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created on this earth what He calls al-asbab. Asbab means the means. Everything that is a mean to achieve it. Everything. You want to have a beautiful apple tree? There is means. You're not going to sit and do nothing and say, Allah give me an apple tree. It's going to pop up. No. You have to go, get a seed or get a small apple tree, Plant it, water it, give it fertilizer, be patient, make sure that, if it has any insect, you take care of it. Then you're going to have a beautiful apple tree, and you're going to have that. Same thing. You want to have a job, you don't sit at home and say, I want the job. You go, apply, send resume, call people, connect, all of that. Allah put the asbab, the means on the earth. And it's our job to go look for those means to get to our rizq. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us so many examples in the Quran to tell us that there is nothing in terms of rizq without making the effort. We have to make the effort. One of the most beautiful examples in the Quran is the Sayyidah Maryam alayha salam. When she was pregnant and delivering the baby, Jesus alayhi salatu wasalam, Isa, when she was delivering the baby, she was in a very weak condition, extremely weak, and she was hungry. She was hungry. Look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells her, وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ تُسَاقِطْ عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. And shake towards you the trunk of the palm tree. It will drop on you fresh, ripe dates. Do you think Sayyidah Maryam, when she pushed the tree, she's going to shake a palm tree? Not even 10 men can shake a palm tree and make it fall the dates. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to make sure He's giving us a message that everything on earth, you achieve it by working for it. We work to achieve something, then you get it. You want to be rich? Work. You want to be in a good position? Work. You want to achieve, success? Work. You want to have good children? Raise them right. You want to have a good spouse? Look for a good spouse. That's what Allah is saying us. Do your part, then the rizq is going to come. But it's not by sitting and doing nothing, the rizq is going to come to you. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no one will die until his provision is completed for him. So behave correctly in your seeking it. So he's again reminding us we should try to achieve whatever means we're going to look for the halal means. Because everything, there is two ways to get to it. Whether it's money, whatever, position, halal way and haram way. So don't take the haram way. Always focus on the halal way. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يَرْزُقُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. And Allah gives to whom He pleases without limit. So Allah, if Allah loves you, He can give you without limit. There is no limit. You may think that, if I do this, then this is the next step, this is this is that. You calculate everything logically and all of that. But Allah, if He loves you, He can give you way more than you expect. Much more. You think that you're applying for a job and you're hoping to get $70,000. Allah makes somebody like you and say, this guy has exactly the skills I want. And I'm willing to pay him $150,000. Allah can give you without any limit. So when you're asking Allah, don't worry about calculation. Don't worry about how much you want, that it's too much, it's too little. With Allah, there is no limit. Ask Allah whatever you want, and don't worry. Don't worry, because Allah has all the treasures. So He has plenty to give you. Another thing that we have to understand about rizq, that most of the people don't pay attention to. Rizq, there is two kinds of rizq. There is one called positive rizq, and the other is negative rizq. Most of the people know the positive rizq, but we don't pay attention to the negative rizq. Positive rizq, we know all of us. Your paycheck, somebody gives you money, you have children, you have good health. But the negative health is what Allah send in your path that take away your money, take away your rizq. And I'll give you an example. You have two people, one making $100,000 and the other making $50,000. The guy making $100,000, when his son gets sick, he has so much worries. He take him to 5 doctors. He take him and have an MRI done, a CT scan. He spends $10,000 and he has just fever. The other When his son gets sick, he gives him a couple of aspirin, and alhamdulillah, the next day he's fine. Same thing. You have that rich person, he goes and he get married, and his wife, Allah provided him with a wife that has a very expensive taste. You get her, a dress. Is this from Nordstrom? No. I want it from, Saks Fifth Avenue. I want it. Is it less than $5,000? Are you crazy? I'm going to wear that junk? It's just $5,000? I will never, nobody will ever see me in that ugly dress. Then the other person with $50,000, he gets his wife a dress from Walmart. And she loves it. She's happy with it. She wears it. She looks wonderful. That's the negative risk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give you a lot of money, but then with the negative risk, you find the $100,000 at the end of the year, you owe the credit card companies $20,000. And the other guy, $50,000, and at the end of the year, he has $10,000 saved. So remember that one of the things that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you fear Allah, and you obey Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to keep away from you the negative risk. He's going to keep only the positive and keep away the negative. And that's very important. So how can we increase our risk? I'm sure all of us would like to increase our risk. There is things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us how to increase our risk. The first thing is to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's guaranteed to increase your risk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, if you are thankful, I will surely increase you. That's Allah is giving us a guarantee. It's not maybe, it's guaranteed. I will increase you. And what does it mean to say thank you to Allah? A lot of us think that saying thank you to Allah, say Alhamdulillah, Ashukr lillah. That's one of it. And it is. But that's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting that you thank Him from what He gave you. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a lot of money, then He expects you that some of that money help the less fortunate. That's the way to thank Allah. You show your gratitude. That's why sadaqah, which is charity, coming in the Arabic world, sadaqah comes from the word truth. Because when you give money, that's showing that you are truthfully believing in Allah. That's proving that you're truthful. Because saying Alhamdulillah, shukr, that's easy, it's free. It doesn't cost you that much money. I'll say it 1,000,000 times. But when you have to give charity to somebody $5,000 or $10,000, it becomes very hard. Money is very hard. People love money. And to let go of it is very hard. So giving gratitude to Allah, giving shukr, is to use what Allah gave you in helping others. If Allah gave you health, gave you strength, help others. You see somebody, an old person that needs help, help him. You want to carry something, you help him. If Allah gave you some knowledge, you are an excellent programmer, and somebody trying to learn programming, you help him. That's showing shukr to Allah, and Allah will increase you. If anything, you are in a position, Allah gave you a great position, and now you are the head of the company. You show shukr to Allah, gratitude, by helping the less fortunate, by being fair to your employees. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting by thanking Him. The other thing, the second thing that you can do to increase your risk is to ask Allah for forgiveness. Doing istighfar, regular basis, not just once a week or once a year if you remember. Every time you can, doing istighfar to Allah. Istighfar increase your risk. And Allah is telling us in the Quran, and Sayyidina Nuh was saying to the people in the Quran, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا وَيُمْدِدْكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ جَنَّاتٍ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ أَنْهَارًا. And Noah said, ask forgiveness of your Lord. Surely He is the most forgiving. He He will send rain to you in abundance and give you increase in wealth and children and provide for you gardens and provide you for you rivers. So Sayyidina Nuh is telling all of us, he's telling us that if you ask Allah for forgiveness, He's going to increase you. He's going to give you more children, more wealth, more whatever you want in your life, more position. All of that by asking Allah and doing the istighfar to Him. You do forgiveness, you get more. And another thing, the number 3, is making dua. Making dua to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a razzaq. And Allah said, "Id'uni astajib lakum." Ask me, I will answer you. So Allah didn't say, ask me and I will think about it. Astaghfirullah. Allah said, ask me, I will answer you. So you want to increase in your risk? Ask Allah. Raise your hand and ask Allah, Allah, please expand my risk. Oh Allah, please make my children better. Oh Allah, make my health better. Raise your hand and ask increase in your risk. And Allah will give you that. The Prophet ﷺ used to raise his hand and ask Allah to provide him in sustenance. He always did that. Always, every day, asking Allah to increase his risk. So do it. Make dua to Allah and Allah inshaAllah will answer. The next thing is put your complete trust in Allah. That's very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever trusts in Allah, He is sufficient for him. A lot of time, we get confused. We get confused because we think that we know what's best for us. What's best for us, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Only. Many times, you think that, I want this job. I'm dying, I want that job. And you get that job, and then the next thing, that company becomes like HP, and they laid off 50,000 people. And you lose the job. We don't know what's best for us. A lot of time, we think we know what's best of us. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. So whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decide for you, be happy, because He gave you what's best for you. You may think, I didn't get the promotion. How this can be best for me? I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eye. A person getting a promotion, and then a new VP comes on board, and the first thing he does, he fired that boss, that guy that's under him. That's the first thing he does. It could have been you, because you want to bring one of his own guys. It could have been you got the promotion, and now you're fired. So you don't know what's best for you. Accept it from Allah. Trust Allah. Trust Allah. He's going to give you what's best. And a part of trusting Allah is that trust Allah when He's going to give you that. Because a lot of time we are in a hurry. Allah, I want this now, right now. In an hour, no, now. Tomorrow, no. You never know. Timing is a part of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of times, maybe the thing you're asking is not ready for you. And maybe you are not ready for what you're asking. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may delay it. Maybe you didn't learn how to do that part of programming well. And if you get promoted now, you may be exposed and you lose your job. But if you wait another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you waiting another 6 months, somebody is going to show you how to do it. And then you're safer in that new promotion. And then have taqwa of Allah, fear Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the people who fear Allah, Allah loves them. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out from every difficulty, and will provide from him from sources he never could imagine. So that's, again, fearing Allah doesn't mean you are going to be like the Prophet ﷺ. None of us. Fearing Allah means you're doing your best to obey Allah. That's all what Allah is expecting from you. That you do your best. And if you do your best, then Allah, not only He's going to find a way for you out of every difficulty. But He's going to give you things you cannot think about, you cannot imagine, that you didn't think that's going to happen. All of a sudden, another company says, I heard of this guy and he's wonderful. And you find a headhunter calling you and say, we want you to come and join us. And we're going to give you so much stock, and we're going to give you that big salary and all of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you feared Allah, Allah say, okay, you feared me, now let me reward you. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, the most generous, rewards somebody, no limit. And another thing, to increase your risk, give charity. Help the other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له وله أجر كريم. Who is he that will loan to Allah a beautiful loan? For Allah will increase it manifold, and He will have besides an excellent reward. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you help the other. When you help the other, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's amazing that verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the money. It's the money of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's His rizq. He give it to you. And He's saying, by you helping somebody less fortunate, like Allah borrowed the money from you. Astaghfirullah. Allah borrowed His money from me. Who am I? But Allah is treating us in a gentle way, saying, I'm borrowing from you. But not only borrowing, because if I borrow from him $100, the best he's expecting, I'm going to come back and say, here is your $100. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I'm going to return it to you in this life many times. Many times. Just imagine how shocked you will be if you give me $100, I come and tell him, here is 1,000. He's going to faint. He's not going to believe it. And then he's saying, and on top of that, I'm going to reward you with paradise. So in this life and in paradise. So give charity. And don't try to worry about, I have $1,000, if I give this guy $100, now I have 900. He said he's going to give you many times, so don't worry. Be generous. And if you're generous, Allah is going to be generous with you. And then, do your best. In everything, do your best. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah loves when someone does an action to perfect it. To perfect it means to do it to your best of your ability. So whatever you do, you want Allah to be pleased with you and help you and increase your sustenance. Whatever you do your best. In the old days, in the early Muslims, everybody wanted to hire Muslims. In the early Islam, everybody, anywhere. Why? Because Muslims fear Allah. It's not that there is a boss standing there over your shoulder looking at you, what are you doing? You're not doing your job. No, you're doing the best you can. Whether the boss is standing here or he's at home taking a nap, it doesn't matter. You are doing your best because you're fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do your best. Allah will give you more. And the last thing is be patient. Be patient and persistent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Only those who are patient shall receive the reward without measure. Allah will answer you. If you did everything that we said, Allah guaranteed is going to answer you. Whether you're asking for wealth, health, children, spouse, whatever you're asking for, guaranteed Allah is going to give it to you. It's a matter of when. But the problem that with most of the people, that when Allah feels it's the right time to give it back to you, you're not there, you're gone. You're gone, you give up. You give up. And a lot of time you give up just before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to grant you what you want. And a lot of time we get confused. Sometimes Allah will not grant you this, but will grant you that. Because it has more benefit to you. So be patient. It is coming. Whatever you asked Allah, if you did your part and you worked hard and you pleased Allah and you made dua, it is coming. Just be patient. Don't give up. remember one thing. You cannot get from what Allah has by force. You cannot. Some people think when I did steal, I got something more than what was coming to me. No. No, it's not. That's the wrong thinking. Whatever is going to come to you is coming. If it's $1,000, the $1,000 was coming to you. It's a matter of it came to you which way. You stole it, so you got the $1,000. Or you worked hard and you got the $1,000. But you didn't take from Allah something more that Allah is going to give you. You're not gonna able to do that. Nobody can take anything from Allah by force. Nobody. So whatever you want to do, ask Allah. Follow those steps, and ask Allah and work hard. And it is coming guaranteed that Allah will answer you and will increase your blessing. Any questions?
There is a hadith that mentioned that what the son has is belong to their parents. What is the meaning of the statement? And then the second is yeah, because there is a lot of problem in family. From the son, from the husband who has responsibility in their family, and then the hadith say that his rezeki is belong to his parents. And then the second one, I want to ask about when somebody is starting business, maybe it takes time to find the real business that can work, and then sometimes they have to change and try again and try again. What is the sign for someone to decide, is it that their own rezeki or not? Or maybe they have to decide to quit, stop, and change to the other way.
Okay. The first one you're asking about if that there is a hadith that says that the money of the son belongs to the father. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. There is a hadith like that. The hadith, what it means, it's basically that the children are supposed to support their parents with everything they can. That's the responsibility. That the parents, in the Islam, parents have a position that's only Allah is high, and the Prophet ﷺ are higher than the parents. Parents are above every other human being around us. The parents, above your friend, above your brother and sister, above all of those. And the hadith, it implies that the children should never be tight with their parents. Because a lot of time, unfortunately, it's more with men than women. Because, I hate to say that, but women put more pressure on men. So what happens is that the man, to please his wife, he starts to mistreat his parents. And that's very dangerous. Because I'm telling all the sisters, if you're a husband, you encourage him to mistreat his parents, you're next. Trust me, you're next. If he was able to be mean to his parents, definitely he's going to be mean to you. It's coming.
No sister around here to do that.
What's that?
I said no one sister to do that around here.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Well, but then pass the word to the ones who are not here. you are my messengers. You're going to go and tell the world.
I will do it.
Yeah, so tell them. Because this happens, and it has nothing to do with Muslim. It's a cultural thing, and it happens here in America. I've seen it with non-Muslim that he's trying to please his wife, and his wife tells him, "I hate your parents." You always hear it in America, even on TV. The in-laws are coming. "Oh, I hate them, and they are unhappy. Your father and mother are coming, and I hate them." And this is, if he's gonna do that, he's gonna be mean and mistreat his parent, you're next, guaranteed. There is no way. Now, you know, if the most sacred and most important people in my life, I mistreated them, the one that devoted their life to help me, to make me grow, to raise me, to educate me and all of that, and I turn around and mistreat them. So what about you that I just met you and, you know, and we got married a couple of years ago, why I'm not going to turn on you? So the hadith means, children, you have to take care of your parents even if it means you spend your money on them. That's what the hadith is telling people. You belong to your parents, so don't forget them. It's not an option whether I help my parents or not. It's not. They have rights in your money the same way you have rights in your money. So that's what the hadith. The second thing about the business, that somebody start the business. One of the signs of Allah that when you start a business, that there is success. First of all, remember, as a Muslim, one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ taught us is always when you start something, do istikhara. Salat al-istikhara. Okay, the prayer of asking Allah for guidance. I'm sure all of you know Salat al-istikhara, right? Okay, so whenever you start a business, start by asking Allah, guide me to what's good for me. How do you know what you're doing is good for you? One of the signs of Allah is ease. One of the signs of Allah is ease. Make things easy. You're going to find it's things starting to get, you know, whatever direction you're taking is becoming easy. Sometimes it's bad for you, you're going to find doors closing in front of you, one after the other. You try left, it doesn't work. You go right, it doesn't work. You go to the front, doesn't work. But then, if it's good for you, and you did istikhara, because now you're asking Allah to help you, versus, I think I am the smartest person and I'm going to do it on my own, then you're on your own. But if you ask Allah to be your partner and guide you, then Allah is going to guide you. And it's going to make things even easy for you, and that's a sign that this is a good path, keep going. Or He's going to make them very difficult for you, and that's a sign, move to some other direction. Okay? Any other question? Okay, go ahead. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sometimes Allah didn't give what you pay for. For example, you've been paying for something every night, every time, but for some reason Allah doesn't give that. Doesn't answer our prayer. So that's happened to me lately. That I've been praying, and then God it didn't come to me what I want. So finally, I just make a conclusion that it's better for me right now. I don't have to ask Allah for that, because maybe that's not good for me. Allah knows best for what Allah will give to me. So my question is like right now I have on the position that I will not ask Allah for anything. I just will, okay, Ya Allah, just give me the best, and then just whatever you give it. But I will not, Ya Allah, please give that. I will not pray like that. But I will just say, just give me the best one. Is it? But for me, like it seemed that I just give up everything. Is that a good attitude, or just what I'm doing? Yeah, I don't understand. Is it a correct way, or what should I do? If like it seems like whatever I pray is not get answer from Allah.
Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever you ask Him, ask Allah at the end of the dua, Allah, I want this, specifically, if you want. If it is good for me, ask Allah, if it is good for me. And when you ask Allah, continue by saying, and if it is not good for me, give me what's good for me. But ask specifically, ask for anything. Ask specific. But then make sure that you end by saying, if it is good for me, and if it's not good for me, give me what's good for me. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a lot of time, something you want, it may not be good for you. It may create a problem in your family. It may create a problem for you. It may, whatever. Allah has wisdom. And Allah, if He promises us that He's going to answer us and He's going to give us and all of that, He's not tricking us. He's not saying, I'll answer you, but then He doesn't answer you. No, He's going to answer you. But He's going to give you what's best. It may not be this. It may be something else. It may be, as I said earlier, He may be delaying it because He's going to give you something better. And a lot of time you think, I think this is the best. I know, I'm sure this is the best, guaranteed. I know a person, he was buying a house. And he went and looked for a house and he loved it. And his wife loved it. And they went and made an offer on the house. And then they waited, they came back and they said, no, we have a better offer. He didn't get the house. He was disappointed a little bit, but he came to the conclusion, Alhamdulillah, probably Allah did something better for me. And Allah has the wisdom why He didn't give me that. A few weeks later, he found another house, much bigger, much better, and the same price. And then he thought there is no way that I'm going to get that house, because it's much better than the other house. And the money I have is not more. He applied for it, and then after 1 week, the real estate agent called him back and said, the offer accepted. He couldn't believe it. How can it be accepted? So he asked the real estate agent, was my offer the highest? He said no. He got more confused. If my offer is not the highest, how come it was accepted? Remember, he accepted what Allah did. He met the owner of the house. The owner of the house, he asked him, I understand I was not the highest offer. Why did you accept my offer? He said, my wife and I, when we saw you coming with your kids, you were exactly the same way when we bought our house. We bought it and our kids were young, and we had 10 years of the most beautiful years in our life. And we wanted somebody to give them that house as a gift, so they can have a happy life in it the same way we did. So we accepted a lower offer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah, sometimes He's not going to give you what you want. He's delaying it. He's testing you. What are you going to do? You're going to turn around and say, I give up. I asked for this, and Allah, every time I ask Him for something, He doesn't give it to me. I give up. But if Allah finds that I asked Allah, He didn't give it to me, Allah, I understand. You have a wisdom in everything you do. Probably you're going to give me something better. And I accept Allah. I'm waiting for what you promised, something better. He will give it to you. Inshallah.
So actually, the conclusion, whenever we pray, we still can say that, Ya Allah, I want that, but make sure we have to, like, is it good for me? This.
Yes. Be specific in everything you want. Everything. Whatever. You know, you want a house, you want a car, you want another child, you want whatever it is you want. Be specific. But with the understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me what's good for me, if it is good for me. If not, give me what's good for me. So He will give you what's good for you, inshallah. Any other question? One from the men, please. Yeah. I thought they fell asleep.
Assalamu alaikum. I mean, growing up in America, in the US, what is the good advice that we could give to our children if they ask us, if they see two persons, one is a good Muslim, practicing Muslim, and the other one, let's say, atheist or not a good Muslim, but the one is atheist, he's more successful, he seems to be as happy, he seems to be, get more more reason almost. So what would we say to the children? No, I mean, for me, I mean, the standard way that I would answer is that you have to look at the big picture. I mean, our life is not here, but also in the hereafter. I mean, growing up here, how would we tell them that, no, I mean, this is better life. I mean, you have to be, you have to be good Muslim with whatever provision or reason Allah gives.
Thank you. It is difficult for our children, and particularly that always, every generation, their iman is a little bit weaker than the previous one. People who just came from, Muslim country, their iman is much stronger. The next generation a little bit weaker, and so forth. But the key thing is that you have to explain to your children that in this life, everything is temporary, but you can't achieve everything. The key thing is to accept it, to be content, and that's the hardest thing. A lot of time you think that the non-Muslim, they are happy. Yeah, they're laughing, they're all of that. But listen to a lot of Muslims, the non-Muslim. Look at the divorce rate in non-Muslim. Look at, the children. The minute they grow up and they're like 18 years old, they want to kick them out. Go and live on your own. It's different. The Muslim, the key thing is to be pleased with what you have. If you are happy, Allah is going to bless you. Whatever he's doing, take his education. Tell him you have to do your part. It's not just look at others. Look at yourself. The key thing as a human being is not others. Always somebody is going to be better than you. Like always, guaranteed. Somebody is taller than you. Somebody is nicer than you. Somebody, is richer than you. Somebody is healthier than you. The key thing is yourself. Are you today better than yesterday? That's what you should focus on. Are you tomorrow going to be better than today? And that's what you need to do. As a Muslim, you focus on how you are going to get better. How you are going to be successful. Today, tomorrow, and all of that. And then be pleased with what you have. Enjoy it. I've seen people, they work their life. A lot of people, particularly here in America, they don't have a life. Their life is work. And then one day they are retiring and they look around, their children are gone, he divorced his wife, all of that. There is nothing. But as a Muslim, be happy with what Allah gave you today. He gives you a family, enjoy that family. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We created you a moderate nation. So we can enjoy everything. And that's what you need to teach your son, that enjoy what you have. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your whatever job you have today. Enjoy the little money you have today. Enjoy everything that you have. That's the difference between us and the non-Muslim. And don't worry about that always somebody that will be richer. Hey, what's his name? Larry Ellison. He is the owner of Oracle. And he has 26 billion. But Bill Gates is richer than him. He has 59 billion. So always there is somebody richer than you. And Bill Gates, there is people who are richer than Bill Gates. A guy in Mexico is richer than him. So if you're gonna always look at others, you will never be happy in your life. Never. Just try to be happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Then you're gonna be richer than anybody.
Back to my question, what is the best way to treat parents about money? If the parents maybe sometimes has a different quality of being or not good attitude in spend money. What's the best way to treat parents if they spend money for wasteful or maybe for the wrong way?
Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and the Prophet ﷺ, that whenever you give advice, you have to be extremely gentle. So that's giving advice to people in general. So when it comes to your parents, multiply that by 100. So if you're gentle with people when you give them advice, then with your parents, you have to be extremely sensitive. And the best way to do it is try not to give advice, because it's very hard for parents that their children is giving them advice. It's very hard. You know, they raised you. They were telling you what's right and what's wrong. And now you're coming and telling me, hey, this is wrong. I'm telling you, you're wrong. That's very hard. So do it in a very subtle way. Subtle way means in a way that they will not feel that it is advice. I'll give you an example. The children of Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anhu, Al-Hasan and Hussein. The children, one day they were in the masjid and they saw a Bedouin, a person from the desert, came in and he was doing wudu. And they looked at each other and said, what is that? This guy doesn't know how to do wudu at all. So look at the way they did it. How they approached. He's an older person and they were still teenagers, those two. They were teenagers. And this is an older person. So they went to the person and they said to him, me and my brother, we are telling each other, I am the one who know how to do wudu like the Prophet ﷺ. And each one of us is telling the other, no, I am the one who knows it. So we want you to watch us, how we do wudu, and tell us which one is doing it like the Prophet ﷺ. So the first one did wudu perfect. And then he finished, and then the second one did wudu exactly like his brother. So the older person, he looked at them and he said, you two are doing the same wudu. I am the one who doesn't know how to do wudu. Look at the gentle way they did it. They didn't tell him, are you crazy? You don't know how to do wudu? You're an old person, you still do not know. We kids, we know. So that's the whole idea. Parents are going to be very sensitive to any advice you give it to them. Very sensitive. So be, as I said, if you're gentle with regular people, multiply it by 100. And try not to make it in an advice way. Try to make it like, what do you think? I'm going to spend this kind of money on this. Do you think this is wasteful? Let them give you an opinion. So get them to talk to you. But don't try to tell them, I know better than you. That's not Islam. Any other questions? Okay, I guess we're done with the question. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. The smell of food is coming from the back. That's why nobody want to ask questions.